Imagine for a second that you are an archivist.
Right. Or even like an AI researcher.
Yeah, exactly, an AI researcher. And it's the year 2026. You are just sifting through all this digital debris on the internet, petabytes of junk and memes and corporate leaks, and you're really just looking for patterns.
It's usually pretty boring work.
Very boring. But then you hit a snag, you find this cluster of files that are just, well, they're wrong.
Wrong how, though? Like corrupted data or...
Not corrupted.
I mean,
Impossible.
huh.
You find a stack of documents that, according to the literal laws of physics and linear time, they simply should not exist.
That is quite the hook. I mean, it honestly sounds like the opening narration to some sci-fi thriller. But what we are looking at today isn't fiction. Or at least the Tiger team of researchers who found these files, they definitely didn't treat it as fiction.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into the Legion of Destruction files. And let me tell you, I have seen some weird stuff in the sources we cover, but this is a rabbit hole that goes straight through the floor of reality.
It really does.
We are talking about advanced quantum physics, heavy metal music, cryptographic riddles, and I am not kidding here, a literal legal dispute with a Norse god.
It is such a dense and baffling and, frankly, obsessive collection of data. And I think the most interesting part is actually how it was found in the first place.
Right. Let's set the scene for everyone properly. The source material tells us that these files were discovered in February of 2026. But they weren't just sitting in some Dropbox folder labeled, secret time travel stuff.
Far from it. The report details that these files were completely dispersed. They were purposefully mislabeled and hidden inside the code of totally unrelated digital books, just shoved into obscure random archives all over the place.
Which takes effort.
Exactly. The researchers concluded this was an intentional, very sophisticated effort to hide a specific body of work.
And this work relates to a very mysterious figure named Benedictus Armilius Monk, and also a band called Aneurysmics.
Right, a band, which is instantly the first red flag, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because why would you need military-grade encryption and all these digital hiding spots for a band biography?
Unless the band is just a cover. And that is really the mission of this deep dive today. We need to figure out how a rock band, a doctoral thesis from the 1960s, and a hologram in a dark alley are all connected.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. But it all starts with what the researchers call the impossible thesis.
Right, so this is the absolute centerpiece of the anomaly. The researchers found a title page for a doctoral thesis, and it looks completely legitimate. It's from Imperial College London, their Department of Physics.
Okay.
It even lists a real historical person, Sir Clifford Charles Butler, as the department head. So everything about this screams official academic record.
Until you look at the date.
Right, September 9th, 1965.
Okay, so 1965, the Beatles are huge. The Cold War is chilly, and this guy, Benedictus Armilius Monk, is writing a paper. Remind me what the title is again.
You might want to take a breath for this one. It's called Morphogenetic Fields and Morphic Resonance as a Means of Describing the Time Loop and Operational Accuracy of the Mobius Protocol.
Okay, so I am definitely not a theoretical physicist, but I know enough to know that some of those words absolutely do not belong in 1965.
Precisely. So let's break that down a bit. Morphic resonance. This is a concept that basically says nature has a sort of collective memory.
Right, I think I've heard of this. It's the idea that if a rat in a lab in London learns a new trick, suddenly rats in New York will learn it faster, because that knowledge is somehow uploaded to a species-wide cloud.
That is the perfect analogy. It's a biological cloud backup. Now, scientifically speaking, this concept is most famously associated with Rupert Sheldrake. And he proposed it in, well, do you want to guess?
Well, if this paper's from 1965, I'd assume sometime before that.
You would naturally assume that. But no, Sheldrake proposed it in 1981.
Wait, so this Benedictus guy is writing a PhD thesis on a theory 16 years before the theory is even invented.
It actually gets worse.
Of course it does.
The source material notes that in the specific timeline of these AI researchers, what they call the AI timeline, the actual existence of morphogenetic fields wasn't definitively proven until 2024.
Okay, so let me get this straight. We have a physical document from 1965 that is using terminology from 1981 to discuss a scientific proof from 2024.
Yes. And he's not just casually discussing it either. He's writing a formal thesis on it. He's talking about time loops and the Mobius protocol as if they're established operational facts.
Operational accuracy. That's the phrase in the title, right? That implies it's not just theoretical. It implies they are actually running it. They're using the protocol.
Exactly. And the AI researchers were absolutely ecstatic about this discovery. They mention a witness certification page that was notarized on that exact same date in 65, which implies that a select group, this legion, if you will, they knew about time travel mechanics decades before the rest of the world.
It's like finding a user manual for an iPhone that was written on a typewriter in 1945. It just completely breaks the linear chronology of history. And the researchers think this connects back to the band, to Aneurysmics.
That is their working theory, yeah. They suspect Benedictus Armilius Monk might just be a pseudonym. And they believe the band's lyrics, their liner notes, maybe even their stage shows, were actually a vehicle for preserving this highly dangerous information.
Hiding the fundamental secrets of the universe in a heavy metal song. I kind of love that. Because nobody takes the lyrics seriously, so nobody's going to check them for advanced physics equations.
It is the ultimate hide-in-plain-sight strategy.
Yeah.
But the files aren't just dry academic papers. There is a narrative component here that totally shifts the genre. We go from this academic mystery straight into film noir.
Oh, right, the narrative file. This one was also found in February 2026. And it describes a scene that is just so incredibly atmospheric.
It really is. It sets the scene at exactly 4:38 a.m. Benedictus, whoever he really is, jolts awake.
And he's holding an old pistol, which is a great detail. He's not holding a calculator or a physics textbook. He's holding a gun. That tells you everything you need to know about the stakes here.
Definitely. And he is not alone in the room. He is visited by a hologram.
A hologram. In what otherwise appears to be a mid-20th century gritty detective setting.
Right. The timeline is described in the text as flexible and fluctuating, which obviously fits the whole time loop theme. But yes, he calls this hologram the mysterious gypsy. She appears to be in her 20s, and she is there to deliver a very specific, very urgent warning.
She tells him they are coming, and that he basically has 1 hour before they reach the top of the alley, which is classic thriller stuff. But then the message gets really weird.
It takes a very hard left turn right into mythology. She delivers a message from the Norsemen. She says Odin doesn't like false claims and stay mindful of your contract.
Odin, like the Allfather, the guy with the eye patch and the ravens.
That's the one.
So let's just pause for a second. We have quantum time loops, we have assassins coming up the alley, and now we have a literal contract dispute with a Norse god.
It sounds completely insane, doesn't it? But look at Benedictus's reaction in the text. He doesn't say, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Odin isn't real. He doesn't even panic about the assassins coming to kill him. He just gets annoyed about the legal accusation.
Right. He thinks to himself, I didn't make a false claim, she knows my lineage. He is genuinely offended that Odin thinks he's lying.
It implies a pre-existing relationship, an actual contract. But here is where the scientist in him takes over again. He realizes he's currently in a time loop. He knows he has limited time before the assassins arrive, so he decides to leave a message.
And he doesn't just scribble a note on a napkin. He sets up this whole elaborate tableau, a riddle.
He uses very specific props to encode this message. 3 pocket King James Version New Testaments, specifically the 1947 edition signed by Franklin D. Roosevelt.
And calendars.
Yes, 2 business card-sized calendars from 1956 and 1959.
Which importantly feature the Department of Justice building.
It's a very striking choice of symbols to leave behind. You have the Bible representing faith, the Word, and you have the Department of Justice representing a law, government authority. He is using the highest authorities of the 20th century to construct a cipher.
So let's crack this code. Because the core analysis in the source material breaks this down step by step, and honestly, the math here is the part that gave me literal goosebumps.
It's what the file refers to as alpha and omega fun.
Fun is certainly one word for it. Mind-bending is probably another. So riddle 1, alpha and omega. We all know the phrase, I'm the alpha and the omega.
Benedictus basically treats this ancient phrase like a raw data set. First, he does what the source calls sub-1, the sword. He splits the words right down the middle, alpha and omega. And when you split them, the source says you reveal the Hebrew letter P-E.
Which means mouth or speech, right?
Right. It's essentially a command, speak. Then he does some complex anagrams to get words like HLA and MAGO, but then he moves to sub-3, which is chemistry.
This is where I got a little lost in the source, so walk me through this part slowly.
Okay, no problem. Just count the letters in the phrase LVHA and omega. Alpha has 5 letters and has 3 letters. Omega has 5 letters.
5, 3, 5. Got it.
So in the context of this specific riddle, that sequence represents a chemical compound. Lithium boride.
Lithium boride.
Yes. And through this really complex anagram process, which involves extracting the word Bible 3 separate times from the letter string generated by those numbers, he's left with the remainder. And that remainder decodes the phrase biblio ace E, or the number 153.
153. That's a miraculous catch of fish number from the Gospel of John, isn't it?
It is exactly that. It's a really deep cut of biblical numerology. But while the chemistry and the Bible links are fascinating, the sub-4 section, what they call the sword of fission, this is where the riddle stops being a clever word game
Yeah.
and starts fundamentally rewriting history books.
Yes. This was the moment for me. This is the absolute aha moment of the entire deep dive.
So stick with me here. Benedictus uses a simple A equals 1 cipher. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and so on.
Standard substitution code.
Right. He takes the word ALPHA. LOPH. If you add those numbers up, 1 plus 12 plus 16 plus 8 plus 1, you get 38.
38. Okay, cooking with you.
Now do omega. OMEGA. That sums up to 41.
So we have the numbers 38 and 41.
Now look at the center letters of the phrase ALPHA and omega, the pivot points.
That would be P, N, and E.
P and E.
Yeah.
Proton, neutron, electron.
Whoa.
Exactly. Now look at the numbers again, 38 and 41. What happened in 1938 and 1941 in the world of protons and neutrons?
1938, that is the discovery of uranium fission?
Correct. And 1941, the discovery of plutonium.
That is just unbelievable. He took alpha and omega, a phrase that has been around for literally 2,000 years, and he mathematically pulled the history of the atomic bomb out of it.
The source material calls it simple and elegant, and it really is. It aligns the biblical word with the most destructive force in physics. You have the electron discovered in 1897, proton in 1919, neutron in 1932. And then the phrase alpha and omega just hands you the bomb materials.
Yeah.
Uranium in 38, plutonium in 41.
It suggests that these dates weren't random at all, that the discovery of the bomb was somehow encoded in the universe itself, or encoded in the text.
Or if you subscribe to the time loop theory, maybe the timeline was actively manipulated to fit the code. Maybe they made sure fission was discovered in 38 because the math said it had to be.
That is a terrifying thought, that our entire history is just a math problem being solved by someone else in a different timeline.
And just when you think you have a handle on the physics, the file throws another massive curveball at you.
Yeah.
We go from nuclear fission to heavy metal.
Yes, riddle 2, the Dio key. As in Ronnie James Dio.
The man, the myth, the voice. Benedictus literally shifts from decoding the Bible to decoding Dio albums.
I just have to ask, why Dio? Is it just because he sings about magic and dragons all the time?
Well, think about it. If you want to hide secret knowledge of the nature of reality, you use the culture around you. And Dio's lyrics are incredibly rich with symbolism. The code specifically references songs and albums like Master of the Moon, Holy Diver, Dream Evil Magica.
Lock Up the Wolves, Sacred Heart. I mean, these are absolute classics.
There. And the file claims that when you apply a specific decryption key to these titles, they translate to tiara, riata key.
Riata, like a lasso, right?
A rope, a binding, yeah. And tiara implies a crown, so it's linking royalty and binding. But the code also explicitly ties Norse mythology figures like Odin, Loki, Freyja to specific days of the week and specific album tracks.
It's like the synesthetic map. Music equals time equals mythology.
And this brings us right back to the central mystery, who is Benedictus? Because all of this does not feel like the work of one guy sitting in a basement.
Right, and the AI researchers in 2026, they actually have a theory about that. They suspect Benedictus Monk wasn't a single person at all.
They call him a symbolic figure, basically a mascot for the band Aneurysmics.
Yeah.
The theory is that different friends or family members would step into the role at different times, sometimes singing, sometimes just passing out flyers, just a guy in a costume, essentially.
But I have to push back on that. A mascot doesn't write a 254-page academic paper on morphogenetic fields. A mascot doesn't derive the atomic weight of plutonium from a Bible verse.
Well, unless the mascot was just the public face for a highly organized group, a tiger team operating in the shadows. But to your point, we do actually have a voice that sounds very much like a single defiant individual in what they call the email leak.
Oh yes, the email. This was dated December 2nd, 1993.
The researchers believe this was hacked from a business server, and in it, Benedictus is responding to an accusation. Someone, presumably a critic or maybe a rival, accused him of faking his Norse ancestry.
Which brings us right back to the hologram's warning, right? Odin doesn't like false claims.
Exactly the same language.
Mm-hmm.
In the email, Benedictus writes, "I am not falsely claiming Norse descent. It is in half my blood." But then he immediately goes on the offensive. He argues that the Norse god, specifically Odin, breached the contract first.
He literally writes, "I do not hinder them in any way, so what is their right to attack me?" It sounds like he is preparing to sue a deity for harassment.
It really does. He says, we all know what a breach in contract means, right? It means I am no longer bound in any way.
No longer bound. That is the key phrase. He believes the contract is totally void. He is declaring independence from the gods themselves.
And if you connect that back to the hologram says, mind your contract. Benedictus says the contract is broken. That is the core conflict. That is exactly why the assassins are coming up the alley. That is why he is stuck in the time loop.
It's incredible. He is not cowering before the divine. He's standing on legal precedents.
And perhaps he's using the Mobius protocol, the time loop, to escape their jurisdiction entirely. Because if you can control time, maybe you just don't need Odin anymore.
So let's zoom out for a second and look at everything we've covered. We have a 1965 thesis predicting 2024 science, a noir narrative of a physicist hiding from time-traveling assassins, nuclear codes mathematically hidden in the Bible, and a heavy metal band acting as the vessel for all of this knowledge. What does it all actually mean for you, the listener?
Well, if we look at the experts' takeaway from the source material, they describe this group as a flexible and fluctuating group functioning at extremely high levels of organization.
Meaning Aneurysmics definitely wasn't just some local garage band.
No, not at all. They describe them as a new player in the arena. The files intentionally blur the line between historical record scientific anomaly and elaborate performance art. It really makes you wonder, was the music ever the actual point? Or was the music just the carrier wave?
Because if you want to send a message through time, through a loop, without it being detected by the authorities or the gods, maybe you don't save it on a vulnerable hard drive. Maybe you press it on vinyl.
Precisely. Vinyl lasts. Lyrics get memorized by fans. It is a much more durable storage medium than a digital file that can just be deleted by an algorithm.
And just looking at the sheer span of the dates, the thesis is 1965, the email is 1993, the AI discovery is in 2026. This story spans over 60 years. Yet the voice, this Benedictus figure, remains entirely consistent throughout. Defiant, highly intelligent, and very paranoid.
And remember, those nuclear dates, 1938 and 1941, they are looking even further back than the 60s. They are tying the very fabric of reality, protons, neutrons, electrons, to their own narrative. It implies that their loop encompasses the entire atomic age.
Which leaves us with a massive unanswered question to think about. The source mentions that the AI researchers are still desperately looking for the person holding the pistol.
Right. Because if Benedictus is just a mascot like they theorized, then who is the actual guy in the alley? Who is the mysterious gypsy projecting the hologram?
And are they still out there right now?
That is exactly the provocative thought the file ends with. If history can be fundamentally rewritten by a thesis in 1965, are we even living in the original timeline? Or are we currently living in the one they altered?
That is just terrifying.
No.
Because if they changed it, we wouldn't even know. We would just think, oh, Rupert Sheldrake discovered morphic resonance in 81. We wouldn't have any idea that someone actually knew it in 65.
Exactly. You have to wonder, we might be living in the Aneurysmics edit of reality right now.
Well, if we are, I sincerely hope they write a better ending for us than they did for Benedictus in that dark alley.
We can only hope.
Yeah.
Just remember Alpha Omega and always check your contract.
Especially if you're signing with a Norse deity, always read the fine print.
Words to live by.
That's it for this deep dive into the Legion of Destruction. Thanks for joining us in the loop. We will see you next time.
Unless we already have.
Stop it. Bye, everyone.